The new Stochastic Hall of Fame program is bigger and so much better than ever before. Because the days of being able to win only one time a year, well, they're gone. Now you can win year-round just by rocking the Stochastic avatar wherever it is you play. And we've added way more prizes, and better ones too, just to make all of your wins that much sweeter. Even a custom Stochastic Hall of Fame ring and display case to commemorate your most memorable takedowns. And if you're looking for a fresh look on DraftKings or FanDuel, we've created a brand new selection of Stochastic avatars to choose from. And all you have to do to get involved is finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, no matter the entry fee, and tweet us your wins at Stochastic Hall of Fame. Yo, we're back. It's been a little bit, but the Hall of Fame is better than ever. Now you can win a lot more stuff, a lot better stuff as well. All you got to do, download the Stochastic profile picture, stochastic.com/HOF. We got 6 beautiful new ones to choose from. Use it wherever it is you play. DraftKings, FanDuel, anywhere. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, no matter the entry fee, and tweet us your wins at Stochastic HOF. Maybe include a nice little message in there as well, and you're in, baby. Climbing the ranks with the Stochastic Hall of Fame, and we kick it off with the brand new Ring of Honor. That's right. Any $20,000 or more win gets a custom Stochastic Hall of Fame ring in an engraved display case. It even spins. It's a beauty. And any subscription package of the tier that you've met as well for Sims. Joey Prindle, thank you for the Sims and awesome content. What a night. $60,000 for Joey Prindle in the MLB streets. Our first Ring of Honor recipient. You've got to love it. But we've got 2 of them already, and we just started this new Hall of Fame. Z-Roth, 2, with a $20,000 win in the bat flip. Also took down the mini max for $1,000. You guys get the rings plus the Sims packages. And yes, even though we just started taking submissions 2 weeks ago, we already got someone in the silver. Means he won twice already, qualified twice. It's Dion O'Neill, trusting the process like a 76ers fan. I hear you, brother. 7th time in 4 months and twice in 1 week. 22.91 for Quiet Thunder 06. Although Dion's first one was even bigger. Stochastics earned a member for life, took down the NBA layup with 1 dupe, 6th time in 4 months, $8,700 for Dion. Congrats, brother. First one into the silver. Jake Hari, our own, back to the Oilers show, back to even on Oilers Showdowns, thanks to the great Ryan McLeod. $10,000 for Jake in the NHL streets. John Good, another takedown last night in 2 separate contests using the Stochastic tools. Shout out to the team and all the hard work you guys put into producing the best content. $11,700 plus $1,400 for John Good. 2 huge wins there. And then Micah took down first in the DK Showdown 20 max. NBA playoffs, Celtics versus Indy. 40K entries with Stochastic.com help. Thanks, guys, with a little $1,283 win there for Micah. And our own Sean Geezy, he's going to be in the gold tier by next week with the rate he's played over the last year. Finished 3rd and 4th in the Mega Minimax last night. Had 6% of lineups in the top 1%. Shout out to Stochastic Sims. As always, congrats to Sean. And LS Dom, Level Spirit Dom, $2,000. Another one. Sims are the GOAT. Yes, they are. Real Spill. Nice return. Thank you, Stochastic, for all the DFS insight. I can finally submit my name to the Hall of Fame with this 2nd place finish. $500 in the solo shot for Real Spill. Next up, Kevin D. That's 2 tourney takedowns for me in 2024. Thanks to your tools, data, and shows. Best in the business. And Tim took down my first large field tourney after using the Sims for 2 months. Couldn't have done it without the Stochastic tools and advice from Greg Ehrenberg on MLB live before a lock. And Zay holding hands with Sean Geezy, no surprise. Again, great night. Thanks to the team again. Still haven't got my Stochastic Sims, but it's all love. Just email us at our support at stochastic.com. We'll get you those free Sims for the win. And Squatch Biggs, hey guys, appreciate this opportunity to better hone my DFS skills with this amazing tools you guys offer. Took down a GPP, rocking your avatar. Congrats, Squatch. And Matthew Banis, $75 in the showdown at Stochastic Hall of Fame. Man of very few words, but still, it qualifies. Remember, just download the avatar at stochastic.com/HOF. Tweet us your wins at Stochastic Hall of Fame when you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Climb the ranks, build the tiers. Better.
What is happening, everybody? It is time for another MLB Live Before Lock. Tonight, I'm joined by Matt Belman, and right after, well, not right after this, but a little bit after this, we're going to have NBA Live before lock, and then there's going to be the playback show where myself and Josh will be watching at least the first half of the Celtics and Dallas Mavericks game 3, and we'll see what ends up happening. If we get a competitive game, maybe we stick around for a little bit longer. So that's everything we have on the docket for the rest of the night. As you guys are watching this baseball show, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Oh, one more thing I forgot to bring up is also later on today, Eric is going to be with Jesse downside of me. They are going to be also on playback later on the night to talk about the PGA slate tomorrow. So something else that we have on the content schedule for today. But before we get there, like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Jordan, looks like your screen went black there on playback. But that aside, we got this baseball show here today. Belman, what's happening, man?
Nothing, man. Just crying over that early slate. Didn't play enough Twins, aka no Twins. So trying to get it back on the night slate.
Yeah. Humble Parker wants to know, do these people bet? Yes. Word. That was the question. Jordan Klein, that's you, Greg. What was the that's you part? Oh, I'm cutting in and out. I thought it was just the screen that went black, but all right. Well, we'll see what ends up happening here. Not saying anybody would bring up anything in the YouTube chat or anything like that. Was it just like a playback thing? A little bit of Eric Lindquist. Interesting. So let's start, Matt, by digging into some of these pitchers today. If you guys are a Stochastic sub and you want to ask us a question, hit me up in the Discord channel. I'm also going to be keeping an eye on the YouTube chat as we go here. Interesting slate for pitching, Matt. We've got 4 pitchers that are priced $9K or above. Sonny Gray, Nick Lodolo, Nick Pivetta, Bryce Miller. And of these pitchers, 2 of them are popular. One of them is extremely popular. Sonny Gray is 28% owned against the Pittsburgh Pirates. He's the popular one, not the super popular one, though. The super popular one is Bryce Miller, 39% owned at home, pitching against the Chicago White Sox. Good matchup, good park for him also, pitching in Seattle. Then we've got Nick Lodolo. He's 13% owned against the Guardians. Nick Pivetta, 7% owned against the Phillies. Of the 2 chalk options, Sonny Gray, Bryce Miller, do you have a preference between these 2? Do you think they're both too popular? Do you think they should both be more popular? Where are you at on the chalky expensive options?
Man, hate the ownership that Bryce Miller is getting, but he just looks so good in this spot. Got an even watered down White Sox lineup, no Luis Robert. He's been phenomenal at home, much like most of these Seattle pitchers, and he's $1,000 cheaper than Sonny Gray. So I also like Sonny Gray here, but I do think Miller is the top guy given price tag and just the spot at home for Miller. So I like both Gray and Miller a lot. Slight preference towards Miller. Do you want to say that he's getting too much love? I'll accept that.
I don't think he is. I think so we had a lot of sketchy chalk pitching earlier on in the year. And I mean, over the course of the year as well, but recently, the last few slates, I think a lot of the chalk options have made sense. And Bryce Miller at home against the Chicago White Sox, I think this is one of those chalk spots that makes sense. He's kind of a no-brainer for cash games. And then also for tournaments, I don't mind loading up on him in that kind of setting either. He's got a 3.81 ERA this year. The underlying numbers do leave a little bit to be desired. 4.34 expected ERA, 4.17 FIP, but also a 24% K rate. You just got a pitcher who's a solid above average young starting pitcher who's likely going to get better as the year and as his career progresses. He's in this great matchup. He's at home in a pitcher friendly ballpark. I think he's very safe today. And also you don't have to pay too much of a premium for him at 9K. So I'm very much on board with the Bryce Miller chalk. As far as Sonny Gray goes, I don't necessarily have an issue with him, but with him being the most expensive pitcher on this slate and him also not having the same strikeout upside of a lot of other pitchers, to me, it's kind of hard to get up to the 10K salary, at least to the 28% the field is.
Yeah, I get it. There just isn't a ton of really good pitching options outside of the guys getting ownership. So it's a little bit tricky in that regard on the slate.
And as far as the contrarian options go, they're not actually that contrarian. They are relative to these other 2 guys, but I mean, Nick Lodolo is still 13.4% owned. Nick Pivetta is nearly 10% owned. And they do have tough matchups too. Nick Pivetta pitching against the Phillies. And then we've got Nick Lodolo going up against the Guardians. if these guys are maybe like 1 or 2% owned, I think I can make a case for them in large field tournaments, but I'd just rather get to Bryce Miller or Sonny Gray than Lodolo or Pivetta.
I'm with you, man. Pivetta has upside, but it's just such a tough spot.
This Phillies team, I mean, I know that people recognize them as being really good at this point. I don't know that people realize how good this team is, where we've had, the Dodgers get a lot of spotlight because of how loaded their lineup is. The Yankees have been hitting ridiculous as well. Honestly, the Phillies might be better than any of these teams. When you consider the depth of their pitching staff, like if Ranger Suarez is going to be this good all season, and then you've also got, Aaron Nola, you've got Zach Wheeler, who's the Cy Young favorite at the top. Like this team is ridiculous all the way through. They got Jose Alvarado in the bullpen as well. But anyway, I mean, you've got this Philadelphia Phillies team that I really don't like picking on. So Nick Pivetta, that's going to be a no for me. And I know he is showing as positively leveraged in the top pitchers tool, but I mean, still 7% owned against the Phillies, especially for a lot of people who are playing 1, 2, 3 lineups. Pivetta, not somebody I'd be considering. If I had to roster one of these pitchers, I guess it would be Lodolo, but the answer for me really is neither of them. Bryce Miller, my biggest priority in the spend up range. And if we look at the 8K pitchers, Matt, we've got 3 guys here that are all somewhat owned. Tanner Bybee, 15% owned. Walker Buehler's 11%. Christopher Sanchez is 22%. Do any of these guys capture your attention?
No, not really. I mean, there's some good arms here. I think Sanchez is in a really good spot against Boston. They're not good against lefties. He's getting love though. And he's like, I understand Sanchez. He's my favorite of the group. But ownership is there. So I don't see it much different than the field. How about you?
Yeah, I'm just Obi-Wan, type into chat. What is the issue with the playback sound? Then I'll see if there's anything I could do about it, because it looks like I've got everything correct selected. But yeah, just throw it into chat and I'll see if there's anything I could change over here. So one thing that I can't believe Christopher Sanchez is as popular as he is. I know I just said like the Phillies have a better team probably than a lot of people realize, and Christopher Sanchez being a back-end starter is very, very good for a back-end starter. I don't want to roster him at 8K over 20% on against the Boston Red Sox, though. Like, this is just a suboptimal spot. You can get Bryce Miller for $1,000 more.
I'm with you, but when you say the Boston Red Sox like that, like they stink against left-handed pitching.
It's still not the easiest matchup in the world. Let's see, what are their numbers overall for the year? Pull it up. Them against lefties. Sort through the new pages that we have here over on Fangraphs. Okay, so the Boston Red Sox this year, I mean, they've got a 96 WRC plus against lefties this year. They do strike out at a good clip, but I mean, it's only like a slightly below league average offense against lefties. The strikeouts do stand out, but I don't know. It's not an easy enough matchup to where I'd want to be playing a relatively chalky Christopher Sanchez, and he's on the road as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not playing him, so I'm with you. Like, I think that you can do better just in terms of the other pitchers on this slate. That being said, there aren't a ton of options, and you could argue he's too cheap. So I'm more with you than against you, but I understand why he's getting love.
If I had to roster one pitcher in this range, the one that I have the most interest in, it's Walker Buehler. And it's really just betting on the talent of a pitcher who has had a ton of injuries now. I mean, we've seen 2 Tommy John surgeries for Walker Buehler. Historically, guys that have 2 Tommy John surgeries, they don't end up having a third one. Either they end up being fine after that, or they're just kind of broken to the point where they are not a good pitcher, but they don't typically end up getting hurt again. Buehler's numbers to me this year, like we can't put too much stock into him. He's only made 6 starts. It's his first time pitching since 2022. The biggest positive for me is that his velocity is slightly up since we last saw him pitch and be healthy. His numbers overall for the year, 4.82 ERA, 4.28 expected ERA, only a 21.8% K rate. Like none of this is all that great, but I would be willing to bet on him in this price range just from a standpoint of he is the least popular of either of these 3 pitchers. He's also the only one that's pitching at home in a somewhat pitcher-friendly ballpark. I know the hitter weather is very friendly there today, but 11% ownership for Buehler. That's about half of what Sanchez is getting. It's a little bit less than Bybee. I don't love Bueller. I just like him better than these other two pitchers because we might see Walker Bueller sooner rather than later. All of a sudden, be like, oh right, this is a guy who was a Cy Young contender just a couple of years ago.
I don't mind that, taking a shot on just the talent level of Bueller. Like, ultimately, I think he's a better pitcher than Sanchez. So yeah, I'm with you, man. Like, I don't think that's crazy at all. And I think you said it best. Like, you don't love Bueller here. He's just not getting ownership and isn't that much different than the other guys.
And we've got a couple of questions here in Discord. One of them is from Hey, I'm Drew. He says, DK Cash plays for tonight. And then he says, I can't say it enough, but thank you guys for everything that you do. And then we got another one from Einsteinium that we'll address here in a second. It kind of fits in with the cheap pitchers that we're about to talk about. I do think for cash games, I'm most inclined to, I know that there's a lot of ownership going to David Peterson. I'm still inclined to just say Bryce Miller and Sonny Gray for cash games, though.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You can make a case. So Bryce Miller for sure, right? Are we in agreement there?
Yeah, I love Bryce Miller, and he's going to be the most popular. So yeah, 100%. And yeah, I don't think you're crazy to just play Sonny Gray here. There's enough cheap bats.
Yeah, the question then becomes, do you want to go Bryce Miller and Sonny Gray, or do you go Bryce Miller and David Peterson and spend up for like Aaron Judge and a bunch of the other Yankee bats? I think you want to be safer at pitcher. So I'm going to say Bryce Miller and Sonny Gray. And then for offense, where you can, hey, I'm just Yankees bats. Yankees are going to be super popular. If you're looking for value, Cardinals bats for cheap. Those are all the spots I think you want to go to in cash games. Cardinals bats for cheap, Yankees bats just in general, in particular, Aaron Judge. And then for pitchers, Bryce Miller and Sonny Gray. If you're running into pricing issues, you could go Bryce Miller and David Peterson. That wouldn't really be an issue. The other question we have here is from Einstein, and he wants to know, do we have any interest in Braxton Garrett today? So let's open up the floor to talk about all of the cheap starting pitchers, Matt, where we've got 32.5% ownership going to David Peterson. I'm actually going to refresh ownership to make sure that is still the ownership. And yeah, 32.5% to David Peterson. The only other cheap starting pitcher that's getting any kind of ownership is Braxton Garrett at $7,100. He's 12% owned on the other side of that game going up against the Mets. So let's start by talking about David Peterson, and that could lead us into the discussion based on the question Einstein asked us about Braxton Garrett. What do you make of David Peterson being 32.5% owned? He's been terrible this year. He was terrible last year. The Miami Marlins offense, they've been terrible this year. It's a pitcher-friendly ballpark that David Peterson's in. What do you make of him being 32.5%? And the Marlins are also popular on the other side of the game.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, do I love it? No. But you need cheap pitching to get up to the expensive bats. And when you've got slates like this with a bunch of expensive bats in good spots, it's likely that as long as your pitchers are fine, you're going to need bats to win the slate, a la the early slate today. Now, it's not guaranteed to work out like that. So certainly there's some risk, and Peterson might not even be just fine. He might stink, but it's a good spot, good ballpark. He's really cheap. I hate it, but I get it. How about you?
He's hard to get away from. He's so cheap at $6,300 at home pitching against the Marlins. And so when I'm building my lineups, first thing I see is, oh my God, David Peterson is 33% owned. I'm going to want to stack against him. But then I go ahead and look at the Marlins on the other side. It's like, oh my, the Marlins like the third most popular offense on the slate. So it's like, if I would have looked at the offense ownership first, I would have said, oh boy, I'm going to want to roster David Peterson against the chalky Marlins. And then I kind of feel the same, the inverse too. And they're both so cheap and everything is so bad from both sides of this too, that it makes me feel like one side has to give for tournaments, particularly considering what their salaries are. It doesn't mean that a 5-man Marlin stack like has to be the nuts, but I think either a secondary Marlin stack at the very least, or Peterson is going to at least be live to be in a winning lineup for today. We haven't seen a ton of Peterson at the big league level this year. He's only made 2 starts, 11 2/3 innings. If you look at David Peterson last year, he was horrific. He had a 5.03 ERA, a 4.96 expected ERA. The biggest positive for David Peterson in this matchup to me, though, he has always generated strikeouts, even when he struggled. David Peterson last year, 26% K rate. In 2022, 27.8%. In 2021, 24%. So ultimately, I'm going to lean with David Peterson over the Marlins offense is my preference.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about this like as you were laying out your cases for Peterson. I played this fool against the Dodgers. Like, I gotta play him against the Marlins. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like it. He's owned, but you said it best. Like, hard to see one side not working out because even if both sides are just okay, like I'll still take Peterson probably in that scenario because you just don't need a lot from him. As long as he doesn't get blown up, I think you're more or less fine, you know?
I'm looking at these other cheap pitchers. Einstein asked us what we make of Braxton Garrett, and I don't really like Braxton Garrett all that much. But one thing that is kind of a positive about him is if he does outpitch David Peterson, these guys are both so cheap, the win bonus holds a little bit more weight relative to their salaries. So I guess there's a little bit of leverage from that standpoint. The cheaps, another reason also to like David Peterson, everybody wants to play the Yankees offense today. Everybody wants to spend up for Aaron Judge and the other Yankee bats. The cheap pitchers are shit today. They're all terrible. So David Peterson is the best of all of the shit that we have here. If I had to pick one other guy, I guess it would be Braxton Garrett. I just really do prefer David Peterson. Could you make a case for any of these other cheap starting pitchers that you like at all?
Not really. I think you could throw bullets at like Soriano and Saccone because both those teams are a lot better against left-handed pitching. If Soriano were like 6,500 instead of 7,500, I think he'd be wildly in play, but he is more expensive. So no, I think the only reason to get away from them is if you are playing Yankees and you just don't want to be chalky everywhere.
So yeah, if I'm going cheap to somebody else, I'm going to say Braxton Garrett. I don't have other cheap starting pitchers that show up in a meaningful way in the Sims. Like I'll get a couple lineups here that might have like Jonathan Cannon in them or something like that, but it's nobody who I think anybody who's playing 1, 2, 3 lineup should actually be rostering.
Yeah, I get it.
Let's see what else we have for questions. And that is it as far as pitchers are concerned. But yeah, if you're rostering, are you on the same? If you had to roster one cheap pitcher that isn't David Peterson, is it Braxton Garrett for you or is it somebody else?
Are we considering Jose Soriano cheap or no?
Yeah, we'll say everybody's sub 8K.
Yeah, I'll say Soriano then.
Yeah. I'll go Braxton Garrett. Don't like it. Not something I really want to play, but just kind of where we're at here. So as a recap on the high end, Bryce Miller, 1 for me. Same with Matt. In the mid-range, we didn't really love anybody. I think Walker Buehler is a viable contrarian option, but not something that I really want to be married to. And then on the low end, David Peterson, if I had to be contrarian, Braxton Garrett. But I'll be a bit of a chalk donkey today, Matt. I'm really going to be having most of my pitcher exposure go to Peterson, Sonny Gray, Bryce Miller.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, we have Peterson projected for like basically the same amount of fantasy points as we did Logan Webb. The same basically as Pivetta and Bybee and Sanchez. He looks like the best overall dollar for dollar play on the entire slate.
Yep, that's where I'm at with him as well. Anything else you want to add about pitchers? If not, we'll look at the FanDuel side of pitchers.
No, I think we pretty much laid it out best.
All right. One thing I want to remind you guys before we talk about FanDuel pitchers is that the U.S. Open starts tomorrow. There's a Millie Maker over on DraftKings, $1 million to first place. And if you guys are looking to get access to our PGA tools for this tournament, sign up using the link we have below in the YouTube description box, or head on over to the site and sign up with the promo code Pinehurst, all capital letters. You guys could see how it's spelled on screen there, Pinehurst, but probably easiest just click on the YouTube description because the promo code's already loaded in there. When you do, you are going to be able to get access to our PGA Sims for the week for less than $15. So you can build lineups for the main slate as well as all of the showdown slates, round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4, all included in our PGA Sims package. So you could build your lineups on our site. You could simulate them for all of those different slates. You're getting a great discount. The price is normally $50 a week. For this, it's less than $15. And then also we're going to be doing a giveaway this week where anybody that has a win that's an active subscriber of $100 or more, just tweet it at us while using the stochastic avatar. You'll be entered into a raffle. And then next week, we're going to be pulling 3 names from that raffle to win a free month of our stochastic sim. So you could get a 1-week discount, and you can end up parlaying that into another 4 weeks on top of that. So check out the PGA package using that link that we have below. Alex Borgen in the YouTube chat did ask if we have any interest in Bailey Falter. No, at least you are getting leverage if you rostered him, because the Cardinals do look like they're going to be very, very popular, but no interest in Bailey Falter for me.
Yeah, same. I feel like he's got a regression coming in a bad way soon. The Cardinals are definitely the side to get to there. It's just that, like you said, they're getting a lot of ownership.
Yeah, let's pull up some Bailey Falter numbers here. So Bailey Falter for the year does have a 3.69 ERA, but a 4.99 expected ERA, a 4.73 FIP. The other really big issue with Bailey Falter, other than the fact that he doesn't really get a lot of outs and gives up a bunch of runs, he only has a 16.3% strikeout rate. Last year, his strikeout rate was 17.3%, and that was even though he made a handful of appearances out of the bullpen. Is the guy here, Jordan? Jordan, is your guy here? All right, he's got to leave. Jordan is having an issue with pipes or something, he told me. So we found a guy online to come and clean out his pipes for him. So Jordan's going to take care of that right now. And you laughed, but that's actually what's happening. So, and I told him he could call whatever he wants. I'm not going to judge, but Jordan will be back, he said, in like 15, 20 minutes. So Jordan's stepping away for a second there, but thank you, Jordan, for waiting until we finish up the ad read there. But yeah, Bailey Falter, that's going to be a no for me. He does have a somewhat low ERA this year, but it's all smoke and mirrors. And then last year also, 5.36 ERA, 4.93 expected ERA. There's nothing to really like about Bailey Falter, other than the fact that the Cardinals are really popular and you're getting some leverage.
That's about all it is.
So let's look at the FanDuel pitchers then. And on the FanDuel side of things, it is quite a bit different, Matt. There's actually not a single pitcher that's projected for north of 20% ownership. It's definitely more spread out on the FanDuel side of things. Bryce Miller is the most popular of all the pitchers. At 10,300, he's projected for 17% ownership. David Peterson, he's projected for 15% ownership. But no real crazy chalk. If you're building a lineup on FanDuel right now, oh, wait, Jordan's back. That was quick. This guy does quick work, Jordan. Are your pipes clean? Jordan, comment.
Yeah, they're very clean. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, because I know there was some issue with the plumbing, but boy, you got a quick worker there. So FanDuel, Matt, if you're picking one of these pitchers to roster, would you prefer to spend up on FanDuel or spend down where you can get David Peterson for fairly modest 14% ownership at a $6,800 price tag?
I'm still going to ride with Bryce Miller. I think he's the best pitcher on the slate, or in the best spot. And he's cheaper than Sonny Gray and Lodolo. I think you can make a case for Peterson too, but I'd rather make it work with Miller. And yeah, you'll have to sacrifice somewhere, but it shouldn't be that hard, especially on FanDuel.
If I'm spending up, it's going to be Bryce Miller over Sonny Gray. Bryce Miller's $700 less. We've got a comparable projection on the two of them. Bryce Miller a little bit more popular, but nothing all that crazy. So if I'm spending up Bryce Miller, from spending down David Peterson, but my preference would be just to spend up to Bryce Miller, a little bit safer in the matchup against the Chicago White Sox. Something else of interest is Christopher Sanchez at $8,700, actually the third most popular pitcher over on FanDuel. I feel kind of the same about him on FanDuel as I did on DraftKings at $8,700 and him being the third most popular pitcher. And even though the ownership's kind of spread out, I would rather pay up or pay down. I don't really want to be in the middle that much on FanDuel.
I'm totally with you.
Anything else that stands out to you about FanDuel and the pitching options that might be a little bit different from DK?
No, I don't really think so.
All right. So with that in mind, Jordan, now that you are you going to have to step away again, by the way, Jordan? This is actually like not, I just want to know if we should build lineups in lineup generator. Good. All right. So let's build lineups in the lineup generator for DraftKings now. And go all stack types. Matt, do you want to go, should we go contrarian today? Balanced? What direction do you want to go here?
Let's go balanced.
All right, let's go balanced. I'm feeling we're just going to get to a shit ton of Yankees, which is so difficult to avoid today. We'll talk about what we want to do with the Yankees in large field tournaments versus how we want to handle them in single entry, but save a bunch. Yeah, it's like all Yankees showing up here. Yeah, Most rostered hitters, Judge, Volpe, LeMahieu, Trevino, all Yankees here. Pitchers, Bryce Miller, Sonny Gray, David Peterson. Nothing really all that surprising. Matt, what are you going to do with the Yankees tonight?
Fade them and pray. Because I know that they're going to be crazy high owned in like the tournaments we talk about, single entry stuff, the 254 max, all that stuff. Like they're just okay. So here's the thing with the Yankees, like they're all going to be really high owned. The only ones like you really want are the great hitters in their lineup, and those guys are going to be crazy high owned. So I'm going to go elsewhere. There's other good spots on this slate. I recognize this is very Coors-esque in the sense that they really stand out. The top stack tool has them as almost like a Coors team. The ownership has them going under owned, you know, relative to like, we talk about this, the large field GPPs, but I think in smaller field, they're going to be really high owned and you can almost go anywhere else to avoid that ownership. So that's what I'm going to do. How about you?
Large field tournaments, it's my most rostered team by a mile. I've got like a third of my lineups are Yankee stacks today. And I mean, if you look at the lineup generator here, it's 80% of the lineups are Yankee stacks. For single entry, though, I am going to go elsewhere. I don't want to be stacking the Yankees for single entry purposes because I do assume that they're going to be closer to what probably even more than what they should be on. So the main reason in large field tournaments I really like getting to them is we've got them with 14% ownership, 22% top stack odds. When I run everything through the Sims, it just jams the Yankees for me. But in single entry, that might be like 30% on with the 22% top stack odds, which is what makes me want to go elsewhere. And then, like you said, I think every other team is kind of going to be under-owned as a result of that, other than maybe the Cardinals. Because I think I think here's what the field is going to do in single entry. I think it is going to be Cardinals as a secondary stack, Yankees as a primary stack, and then the field will go some combination of Sonny Gray or Bryce Miller with David Peterson. Would you assume that's what the field is going to mostly be doing in single entry?
I totally am with that.
So with that, and also I do think we could see some people going to Seattle as a secondary stack because they're also fairly cheap against Jonathan Cannon. So with that in mind, where do you want to go? If you're not going to be stacking the Yankees in single entry, I'm not either. Which team will you be stacking instead as a 5-man?
Honestly, I like the other side of the Yankees game. A little bit worried that the Royals start pulling ownership too, but Petit is not very good. His actual numbers are a lot better than his underlying numbers would imply how good he is. And we know this Royals lineup has power, speed. I like Kansas City here. Again, I wouldn't fault you for picking a team that's even lower owned, but as you kind of just mentioned, like after the Yankees, Cardinals, and maybe Seattle, I don't really think you need to worry about ownership. So how do you see it?
I'm really strongly just thinking about how the field is going to play it in single entry. I'm thinking about playing the Marlins. And because in large field tournaments, the Marlins are picking up some ownership. I'm skeptical they're going to be in single entry because I think everybody's just going to play the Yankees. And then to play the Yankees, people are going to have to go cheap and go to David Peterson. So I think it might be really sensible to go a cheap Marlin stack with paying up a pitcher, just going to Sonny Gray and going to Bryce Miller as the pitchers in single entry with a Marlin stack. And then you're kind of like covered from all of the different, like it just puts you on such a different lineup though than I think the field is going to be on.
Yeah, I'm with that. I don't know. For me, the Marlins are, I see it. There's so much leverage because Peterson isn't good, but I'm just not sure the Marlins like win this slate, even in a bad Peterson game. Of course it could happen, but I don't know. I just don't think it's where I want to go, but I certainly understand the move. For me, it also goes back to what you've been saying, though. They're also getting love. Now, maybe they won't in like the single entry stuff, so there's your case. But as of now, they're projected to at least.
Yeah, I don't think the field will be playing them in single entry. Because I think what we're going to see the field do in single entry is go to the Yankees and then just go Peterson for cheap. Because you and I both agree the field is going to be stacking the Yankees in single entry, correct?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it just is what it is. Yes.
So with that being the case, then, who is the field going to be spending down at pitcher to pay up for the Yankees? it kind of has to be Peterson. Like, I don't think the field is going in another direction.
Well, yes, you're right, but the people that aren't doing that, like are those people going to play the Royals, like the Marlins? I'm not sure. Like some other team is going to emerge as like being higher owned than we projected. And a lot of the also rans like will be even lower owned. Like, so yeah, I'm not sure how it plays out. Like to your point, it's not hard to stack the Marlins if you use expensive pitching. There are other stacks you can go to there though. And you're right. Like if you're doing that, I think most people are going to stack the Cardinals and the Mariners. So yeah, I get the Marlins for sure. Certainly a Greg Ehrenberg way to play this slate, no doubt about it.
If it isn't the Marlins, because the other team I've been considering is the Kansas City Royals. The reason it would be the Royals in single entry, it's not they have some kind of like crazy leverage in the top stacks tool or anything like that, but because the Yankees are likely going to be so popular, I think anybody who's spending up is just going to go to the Yankees in the small fields. And that's where I think the Royals, who we currently have now 7.6% ownership, 8.2% top stack odds. I just don't think that's a team the field is going to be going to at all in single entry. And that's a team that I think comes in quite a bit lower owned than what their projected ownership is in those contests.
Well, that's the team I like the best. Yeah, Poteet is not very good. Now, the Yankees have a good bullpen, and Poteet has gotten by being decent so far. So maybe that continues tonight, but I'm with you. I think we see big ownership discounts from the Yankees for sure. You know, maybe you see like Bobby Witt owned, but even with him, it's hard to fit him with guys like Judge and Soto. So I'm with you here. I do think there are other teams that look good. My voice just cracked and I'm 39 years old. So there's that. The Phillies against Pavetta, you know, it's kind of a boomer bust spot on both sides and neither side is getting love. Always like looking at spots like that.
So if you're submitting your lineup right now, and you still got 35 minutes to choose, but if you were submitting it right now, and we're also still waiting for just the Texas Rangers lineup, we've got the lineups from everybody else. If you're submitting your lineup right now, which team are you playing in single entry?
I think it's going to be the Royals. They fit pretty nicely. I'm kind of debating with you, like, do I want to just see if I liked Sonny Gray more tonight? I think I would lean towards what you're doing. I just don't know if I want to spend $19K on like Gray and Miller. These guys aren't like Garrett Cole and Jacob deGrom. So I get it, but I think I'm going to go the Peterson route and use a bunch of Royals.
Let me look through my lineups. If I'm submitting my lineup right now, it would be the Marlins. I'm in between the Marlins and the Royals, though. It's going to be one of those teams for sure, though. One of those two teams for sure for me.
Yeah. I do like Seattle, but man, like they're projected to be owned too. So I hate seeing that.
Yeah, let's see. It's also hard to find 5 hitters I really like from the Royals. I like individual hitters from the Royals. I don't know that I like 5 of them, though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's just about Poteet not being good and amazing weather here. Everyone going to the other side of this game. Yeah. I'm interested to see like how chalky the Yankees actually are tonight. Do you think they're like the Twins from today?
So let's do a guess right here. $121 single entry. What will the ownership be on Aaron Judge?
Okay, first off, before I answer, do you think like the stack will be as high owned as the Twins was today?
Not. I mean, it's not really a fair comparison because that was a 4-game slate and
True.
It's a 8-game slate.
True.
Not quite that high. I do think Aaron Judge will be more popular in single entry than any individual hitter from the Twins was, though.
I agree. So is that who you asked me first?
Yeah, just a number. What would you guess is going to be the ownership on Aaron Judge in the 121 single entry?
54%.
Okay, I was going to say 55%. So, yeah, we're more. I think he's going to be in somewhere around half of the field's lineups. And also, if you have a really contrarian stack, I don't think it's the end of the world to have Aaron Judge in that lineup.
Well, he's got double-digit fantasy points in like 1,000 games in a row. So totally with you. I mean, yeah, like he's unreal right now. So he might be like 60% owned. I might be underselling it. Now, yeah, Maybe he's under that because he's so expensive, but I think people are going to do what they can to fit Judge in here, and it makes sense.
Have you looked at what Judge's his overall numbers for this year and the last 3 seasons overall? Because he now has, going back to 2022, so 2022, 2023, 2024, he is a WRC plus, a little bit over 200. The next closest is Yordan Alvarez at like a 170. There's such a big gap between him and everybody else as a hitter the last few years. He didn't even start this season all that well. You know, relative to normal players, he was good, because Eric and I were looking at this yesterday. He had a 118 WRC plus through March and April, which, you know, solid, but you're like, oh my God, what's wrong with Aaron Judge? You know, there's a 118 WRC plus. He was 14-1 to win the American League MVP after April ended. Now he's even money, even minus money at some books, and he is a over 200 WRC plus. The only players in baseball that have had a WRC plus this high at this point of the season over the last like 50 years, it's like Barry Bonds a few times, Aaron Judge, and then like one other guy as well. But he's been just absurdly good. I'm going to be playing a lot of. He's my most rostered player. This is almost never the case for me. I have more of Aaron Judge than I even have like Bryce Miller or David Peterson right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can argue it. I was obviously saying his double-digit fantasy point games in jest, but he's got 11 of those in a row. That's damn impressive.
And if we look even more at it, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's at least 14 or more fantasy points in every game since May 29th. So we're looking like it's like 2.5
That's insane.
2 weeks since he had less than 14 fantasy points in a game. Maybe one game where 13 or more. He had one game where he had 13 against Pablo Lopez.
That is insane.
It's been wild. Yeah, showing up in 72% of our lineups in the lineup generator. Let's build some FanDuel lineups and see what pops up on the FanDuel side of things here. Same deal, Jordan. Let's go balance lineups on FanDuel. And if you guys want to sign up for the lineup generator or any of the other packages we have at Stochastic, check out the link below in the description box of YouTube, and also any package you signs up with. Also, it comes with access to our Discord channel. But let's see these lineups here. Same deal. Our 4 most rostered players: Aaron Judge, Anthony Volpe, Juan Soto, Gleyber Torres. So if you click on the stack exposures, I have to assume that means, yeah, we actually have nearly 100% exposure to the Yankees over on FanDuel in the lineup generator. Jordan, what are you doing with your, is your friend in the room with you and you can't control yourself? Because I don't know what the hell you're doing with your mouse. Keep it, you don't need it doesn't need to spin in circles. Give somebody a seizure watching this. St. Louis Cardinals picking up some ownership. They're in a good amount of lineups as a secondary stack. Some Mariners, some Diamondbacks, some Royals. Go to the player exposures, Jordan. I want to see what our pitchers are looking like for FanDuel. Yeah, David Peterson is in nearly half of them, 40%. Let's see, where do we have Sonny Gray and Bryce Miller? Oh, Braxton Garrett showing up in FanDuel lineups, then Walker Buehler. So I guess because we're jamming the Yankees, it's making it hard to get to other spend ups here. Yeah, Christopher Sanchez. So we're not getting to really Bryce Miller or Sonny Gray over on FanDuel. Instead, it was spending up at bats. That's interesting. It's different than what I expected, although it makes sense considering the Yankees exposure. But I'll ask you for the FanDuel side of things, Matt. Which team do you think makes the most sense on FanDuel as a contrarian stack, when we're going to be assuming here that the Yankees are going to be insanely popular, because we have them projected for 20% ownership on FanDuel, which that actually does still have them a little bit underowned, I should say, on FanDuel. But still, they're 20% owned. It's a little bit fairer ownership than what they have on DraftKings. If you're making one lineup to build a stack on FanDuel, which direction would you go?
I think it's, I think it's still Kansas City, because they are projected to be 10% owned, but like every team from the Mariners up in the top stack tool is projected to be at least 7.5% owned. So if you want to go really off the board, maybe I would go with like Mets against Braxton Garrett, but they're expensive, and I think you're obviously risking a lot of opportunity cost to get there. So probably the Royals for me. How about you?
FanDuel is so much more difficult than DraftKings today, in my opinion. I'd probably still say Miami because of the ownership going to Peterson. but I don't feel as good about it as I do on DraftKings because the FanDuel ownership on Peterson is like 15% as opposed to 33%. Maybe a little bit higher for single entry. I'll agree with you. I'll go Royals, but they're also 11% owned on FanDuel.
It's tough to find a contrarian stack that you like because it's like there's the only low owned stacks are not in good spots, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking it over and I'm just trying to find like, all right, what's the best under-owned offense? And it is technically the Yankees, but you and I both agree that's not going to be the case in some of the smaller field stuff. So then you start to scroll down. It's like, well, every other offense also is picking up ownership. To find offenses that aren't picking up ownership, you have to go to like what you said. The New York Mets were only 3% owned with a 5% chance to be the top scoring team. Yeah, I guess I'll say the Royals here, but FanDuel's really difficult today. I do find that the field is pretty spot on in terms of like accurate ownership there.
It's almost like just play the Yankees. You know what I mean? Because we can't find anyone else.
Let's see what we have for questions here. We got a question from Einstein. He wants to know, do we have any interest in the Pirates today? So, Matt, we'll start talking about some other stacks, some contrarian spots to be getting to that we haven't already talked about. But first, to answer the question that we got from Einsteinium, what do you think of the Pirates as a stack today? Looks like that's the direction that he is potentially looking to go.
I mean, it's not for me. Sonny Gray's really, really good. And it's more likely than not, like if he's not very good, I don't see the Pirates like destroying him. He probably walks guys and gets in his own way, but it's not a stack that I'm looking at all here. How about you?
One thing that is kind of interesting is that they're getting some ownership, even though it is a tough matchup against Sonny Gray. Not like 10% owned or anything, but they are 4% owned, which is more than you usually see these kind of shitty, cheap offenses be against some of the better and chalky starting pitchers. So if you're playing, if you play 20 lineups, you had one Pittsburgh stack, I think that's reasonable, but it's hard for me to really want to get too much different than the field in this spot or not, if not just be underweight to the Pirates, considering that the ownership is kind of there.
I'm with you now. In like single entry, it won't be there, but really trying to play them in single entry, I'm not.
And yeah, Chris Williams just shouted it out in the playback chat and also a news item that just came across my phone. But Kristaps Porzingis is out today. He will not be playing for the Boston Celtics, dealing with whatever the hell that injury was called that he's got in his foot, knee, leg, ankle, whatever the hell it is. But yeah, Kristaps Porzingis will be out today. So that is relevant for betting information. Let's talk about other stacks, though. We've already talked about large field tournaments. I'm going to be loading up on the Yankees. I mean, they clearly make a lot of sense for large field tournaments. Best overall offense to be getting to if we're talking about like the $15 on DK. What are some of the other offenses that are important to you, Matt? Anything else that looks under-owned to you or a spot that we just haven't talked about?
Yeah, here's a spot we haven't talked about. The Dodgers completely destroyed the slate last night. They're really expensive, even more so than the Yankees. Everyone is going to be spending up on the Yankees. Even Kansas City will be higher owned. So the Dodgers, whenever you get them at low ownership or lower ownership like this, always in play. Tonight's no exception.
I have 3 teams that I have double-digit exposure to. One of them is the Yankees. That's pretty easy to figure out. You want to guess who the other 2 are, Matt?
I am going to say I'm going to say the Cardinals.
Not the Cardinals.
Okay. I'm going to say the Royals.
Yep.
And the Dodgers.
Not the Dodgers. It is your Cleveland Guardians against Nick
Okay.
Lodolo. I think this is the most viable low-owned team on the slate if we're taking, like leverage and whatnot off the table, because the field in large field tournaments at least is already getting to the Seattle Mariners, but the field is not playing Cleveland at all. I mean, we've got Cleveland with 3% ownership. They do have a 5.6% top stack odds. So for every team that we have with the top stack odds of 5% or more, every single one of those teams is 6+% owned. Well, the Dodgers are 5% owned, but also really popular, really expensive. So every offense that is a 5+% top stack odds also has 5+% ownership. other than the Guardians. Your Cleveland Guardians, only 3% owned. So I think that's one of the more reasonable ways to be contrarian spending out. I hear what you're saying about the Dodgers, but at least if we're looking at the top stack stool, the Guardians have nearly identical odds of being a top scoring team relative to the Dodgers. They're going up against Nick Lodolo, who has more ownership than John Gray. They're a little bit cheaper than the Dodgers, and they have about half the ownership.
Yeah, it's just that ultimately it's the Dodgers is what my argument would be, but I'm with you. The Guardians have been phenomenal this year, and they're going to be even less owned. Like, they're a team, if you told me you were stacking them in single entry, I wouldn't think you're crazy.
Not a team I considered in single entry, but yeah, I do think the field is overlooking them a little bit. So Cleveland Guardians, I think that's a reasonable way to be contrarian. Any other stacks you want to bring up that are important to you for today?
I don't think so. It's the Yankees, obviously, the Royals, the Mariners, Dodgers and Guardians is high upside, lower owned stacks. I'll throw the Phillies in that mix too.
All right. So let's see if we have any other questions. Nothing coming through. So let's do our home run picks, and then we will be done for the day. And then in an hour from now, there's going to be NBA Live Before Locked, and myself and Josh are going to be on playback. And then, of course, after that, we've got Eric and Jesse downside of me from Twitter/Forsaken over on DraftKings. They're going to be doing a PGA show also on playback. But before we get there, Matt, let me know what your home run pick is. And then also, let's see some dongs from the chat. Who are you guys picking a homer today? Matt, home run pick. What are you going with tonight?
I'm going to go with Vinny Pasquantino from the Royals.
I'm going to go Nelson Velasquez from the Royals. Big time power, and Velasquez is bad. He doesn't really bring anything else to the table, but he is capable of going yard. He is one of the better power hitters in the Royals lineup, and somebody who's really important to me in the Royals stacks that I'm building. So that's going to be my home run pick. Also, a Trippy A in the chat. I see he said cheap pitcher. David Peterson's the overall best cheap pitcher on the slate. And let's see what we have for home runs from the chat. Doug Dubs is going with Jose Ramirez bomb tonight. Clintwood 83 is going with Adolis Garcia. We've got B Funk going with JP Crawford. Chad Rock going with Giancarlo Stanton. Free Scotty's got Corey Seager. We've got Cosmo going with David Dahl. Junior Whopper going with Harper. Jordan Klein, the king of pipes, is saying Ohtani Pipes one. We've got Francisco Rubio going with Matt Vierling. We've got Jake Swales going with Mark Ventos. We've got Envious going David Fry. Aaron Hines has got Salvador Perez. We've got Nolan Arenado from Dub K. Andy Melman's also going with JP Crawford. Malukar dusting it off. He is going with Teoscar Hernandez. He also wants to let us know he picked Kyle Schwarber last night, who had not one homer, 2 homers for Kyle Schwarber, including one on the very first pitch of the game. That's probably the closest, the quickest anybody's hit on any of their home run picks. So yeah, Malukar, first pitch of the game, Kyle Schwarber went yard there. Who else do we have? Humboldt is going with Nolan Gorman. Logan is going with Ellie De La Cruz double dong. Then we've got Corbin Carroll from Domer. Einstein is going with Bryce Harper. We got Okizi going with Francisco Lindor. Pierre's got Pete Alonso. And then Jetty is also going with Ellie De La Cruz. Guys, thank you very much for watching. If you've not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're going to play PGA DFS tomorrow, take advantage of our Sims deal. Less than $15, you're going to get access to our sim. You build up to 10,000 lineups on the site. You simulate them up to 40,000 times. It's good for every single slate this weekend, for the showdown slates, the main slate. So take advantage of it. We've not made an offer of this ever for the PGA Sims, and don't really have one coming up in the plans either. So take advantage of it now. And then don't forget, if you have any win of $100 or more and you're an active subscriber, tweet at us. If it's a PGA win this week at Stochastic HOF, you'll get entered into a raffle to win a free monthly subscription over PGA Sims. So guys, thank you very much for watching. Check out the NBA show in an hour. Have a great night.